Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Street Epistemology call-in show. I'm Reid from Course of Curiosity, and I've got David and Luc here with us. With me. How's it going?
Good, good.
Hello.
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 All right. My
Where'd your light
light
go,
can be
Luc?
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
There you go.
That's because my notepad wasn't open. I have a notepad to follow what people are saying and words in English that I have trouble with because I'm French. Hello, Gina. Hello, Morgan. Welcome.
Gotcha.
Rosemary, hello.
Yeah, awesome.
And Moonshoes.
Good to see you all here.
That's a new name, Moonshoes.
Yeah. I think I've
I'm
seen that
interested.
person before in the chat. But yeah, it's another
Nice to
call-in
hear
show, so we need people to call in.
That's how it works.
That is how it works.
So there's a StreamYard link somewhere in the chat. Is it?
I pinned it in the chat, in the YouTube chat, yeah.
Okay. That's how they do it.
I also put in the chat a link to a Miro board where you can post suggestions for claims or topics for people to talk about.
Oh,
Very
nice.
nice.
What do we
Bad
have so
testing,
far?
medicine is better. Yes, it is. Shoot. We talked about placebo effect and the what was when you have something distilled in a lot of water, homeopathic drugs.
Homeopathy works.
Yeah, like this kind of claim, and how I could test it myself, or how we could test it ourselves. And it's really hard when you have this as idea of it doesn't work when you start. The claim was more homeopathic works as well as placebo effect to make it sure, right? It's like it works like medicine works, but works like placebo effect, a tool to convey the effect of the placebo, because you need something for the placebo for the placebo to work. You need to be convinced that it will work, right? And placebo effect is up to 40% of cases. Like out of 100%, there's 40% who are cured without having taken any medicine, right? They don't have an headache. They don't have a disease. Not kind of, I don't know which disease they tested with the placebo effect, but it's a lot of people that are cured just because they are trusted. They trust the medicine.
Any other claims in the chat people can suggest? Please encourage my Miro addiction. Feel free.
What's Miro? What's Miro?
That is the app I'm using to get suggestions from people.
Oh, the note thingy. Okay.
Yeah.
I can throw a few more out there if you need to fill them up.
Sure.
I don't know if you've got Miro handy, Reid, because I don't. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I'll put it in our private chat here. I'll also put it back in the chat as well.
Lovely.
I'm rolling the dice on my claim dices. See if there's one. It's a neutral one.
Oh, it is. There we go.
SC is easier if you disagree.
Yes.
With the claim.
I'm sure that can be refined.
Sure.
So 2 new claims that I picked from my list. There are more wrong information theories in the world than right. And another one would be code can do everything that is logically possible.
I'm just going to chase Reid around the screen. Okay.
Cool.
I don't know if that's coming up on the stream or not.
What?
It's
What
probably
do you
not.
mean?
I was following my cursor with your cursor. I can see Reid's cursor. I don't know if you can see mine.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there's Rosemary's cursor. Yeah, I have a tab where it's on just presentation mode, and we don't see the cursors there, but I can see it in the edit mode.
Okay. Oh, this is a lovely one.
Mm.
Which one?
Low temperatures cause
low
illness?
temperatures. Yeah. I find that's a very common, in my opinion, misconception.
Okay.
Was this the story of they went to the South Pole or North Pole? I don't know which one. Anyway, the one where they have land, and they do a test like that. People had to go outside every day, almost naked, and just make sure that let's see if they get sick. And yeah. So they were doing the hot and cold and hot and cold and hot and cold on army men. I think it was for the army that they went there. And yeah, it was interesting. The result was, of course, if there is no bacteria to infect you, there is no reason for you to be infected. Wow.
And that would be an interesting claim to talk about with what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, and Ukraine asking to join NATO. That's a little disconcerting.
Yep. We, as I was mentioning before the start of the stream, I do a stream every week with the Shills, and although we were talking about a different stream, Reid, on the Friday, which was yesterday, we also do, it was 24 hours ago, we do a Ukraine update with Operator Starsky, and we talk all about the developments over the course of the week, and we've been doing that for now 6 months, full length of the war. So it's a fascinating conversation.
Wow. Yeah, someone asked transitioning. What is that? I saw a modern day debate. They had a debate about transitioning, I assume, of minors from one gender to another, either hormonally or surgically.
Interestingly, I have one in one of my classes.
You one transitioning person.
You
have one person that wants,
without going
wants
into
to change their
detail. Yeah, so to keep it vague, the child wants to, and I don't think either the parent doesn't or the parent is open but doesn't want to commit to anything for any sort of permanent changes too soon, kind of thing. So we're sort of in a rock and a hard place as teachers.
Oh yeah.
Where we're trying to say, how do they change for PE and all of that?
Where they change for PE? Oh,
exactly. And there's nothing that we have to abide by a 180-page form which mentions trans like 3 times, and it just says don't bully. Like it doesn't say anything.
All those 3 times is about don't bully. Oh, there's
literally
nothing
what
about
it says. Yeah.
Where do they change?
Nothing.
That would be useful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a poll. What is the one claim you'd like to talk about?
Who are you asking? The chat? The listeners?
Mainly you
Maybe
guys.
the listen- Our guy who asks.
I guess I don't know how we vote, but it's okay to shame is quite an interesting one. And obviously, so that's changed to gender transitioning for minors. Okay, that could be an interesting one. Contentious, yeah. I think we should, or I think if SE should probably start to dive into the more controversial stuff. I'm making that claim.
Have characters. Make the transition minor to encourage. That's doesn't care too much. There we go. All right, I think. Jordan and Luc. These three for now. We'll let the audience choose, and then we can do some spectrumacy. And if anybody else wants to call in and join us, feel free.
We have more stickers available for new claims. That would be useful if you want to put your claims in one of those stickers. We have many more stickers. Oh, nice. You have a... nice.
Fancy.
Yeah. All right. Transitioning should be encouraged or they were tied with Nuke and transitioning with 5 votes.
Oh, Nuke's interesting. Yeah. Oh, let me get the stream back up. There we go.
We can go with the nuclear one if that one pulls ahead. Or, we can do it second. Still tied at 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go with nukes.
Jesus Christ has a new claim. Veganism is a death cult. Maybe you want to call in. The username, Jesus Christ. Those people. They're not scared, right? Retribution, smiting, and those kind of things.
All right, so is this a good way to phrase the claim? I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, measurable, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, we'll know if it happened for sure.
So I'm guessing this is not tested. It is live, and it is a claim that it would be used on another country by one of the 10 countries or whoever has nuclear weapons, I guess.
Yeah. Keeping it agnostic from who used it on who and where.
Mm.
And it's before next year, December 31st of next year.
So 15 months, not 3.
Right.
So before the end. Okay, sweet.
All right. Do you know how to move your name around on the board?
Oh,
I don't see anyone else's cursors.
How do I switch?
If you zoom out, or I can move everyone to me.
Oh, there we go. Lovely. Excellent. I think I will go here.
Yeah. There.
There.
This is a prediction.
Yeah.
Are we on the right lines? Well, David and I are on the same line. Should we be where Luc is, or should Luc be where we are, or should we be somewhere else?
I guess strongly suggests absolute certainty.
Oh, for you. Okay. So the reason why I'm strongly is on the message that I need to convey to those who are listening to me. So if I say I disagree instead of strongly disagree, it says that I'm more inclined to think that it is good, okay, than not. It's not like it's not great to claim this kind of thing about the future. Claims about the future should be avoided in general. It's not about and when it's a bad thing like a nuclear weapon. So I will always argue those kind of claim. Yeah, well, okay, let's go to strongly agree because we want this to happen. But if it's something bad like a nuclear weapon about the future, I don't want it at all to be.
Should what
true.
We want to happen or not happen factor into our
agreement
or not?
Subject, yeah.
It's not should it happen, it's will it happen. Does that change?
That's if we agree with the claim, there is more likely for this thing to happen because we act on this word according to our will. So we will do something. Let's say there is a question, should we do this? And then you will say yes, because you agree with the claim, right? So yeah, your position on a claim have an impact in the world, on the future.
I don't have a nuclear weapon or influence on anyone who could detonate nuclear weapons or put them into place.
You think, Reid, but you don't know. Maybe somebody knows you that you don't know them.
Are you saying we should disagree with this? Strongly disagree, because if we did agree, that might put it into the culture that some people agree that it could happen, and that would increase the likelihood that it would happen.
Yeah. So yeah, it could increase the likelihood of it happening if you agree or strongly agree with the claim more than if you disagree. But I don't think there is a more likelihood, a difference between disagree or strongly disagree, right? But I do believe there is a difference between strongly disagree and strongly agree on a claim about the future.
Okay. What are you thinking, David? What are your justifications for this?
Is it a cop-out to just say, I agree with Reid? We're just sort of massive brains between us. No, it's like, I don't buy it. I just don't think things have escalated anywhere near that. I know they've put, what is it? 2 minutes to midnight. I think it's where the, whatever clock, I can't remember the name of it is, but
Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, that it's certainly, given the updates that we're getting in, let's say, Ukraine, for example, the huge offensive, it seems to be from Ukraine to regain their own land is something that is going to probably annoy Putin quite a lot. What are the circumstances under which those weapons will be used? It seemed two things had to be acknowledged. So one, it seemed like Putin's aim was to annex certain parts of Ukraine, which he has claimed to now, even though he set up the referendum in a week or whatever, and nobody outside of Russia is buying the legitimacy of that, those quote unquote elections. So he's got on paper what he wants. There seems to be some forms of escalation in terms of the bombing of the what seems to be sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. We're not sure whether it's Russia. Some say it's the US. It seems like nuclear is an end game option. And do I think in the next 15 months that it can happen? Sure. That's why I can't be on strongly disagree. But if a number of different things have to happen in order for them to then be used, I'm seeing a degree of escalation, but we see conflict all the time. We see US, UK in Iraq, Afghanistan. We didn't feel the need to use nuclear, so why would we use, or somebody else possibly use nuclear? Is it going to be a sort of terrorist organization that takes over? Unlikely for me. So it would have to be a formal official government that would have to do it. And I don't see anyone who has those nuclear weapons backed into a corner sufficiently for them to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the website where I can find some prediction markets. Is it Metaculus? Is there one about this already? Oh, it's the top one on the website.
I can't remember. There's a crypto one as well. I can't remember. No, ignore me.
Can I switch it easily? No.
It's 80% of those predictions that turned out to be false. There is a statistics about how accurate they are.
Right now it's at 7%. Oh, yeah. This is before. This is by December 31st, 2022. This year. So that's one. Flamethrower here.
It'd be interesting to know how these are calculated.
What does that mean? What fraction of nuclear weapons detonations by 2050 will be counter value?
No idea.
Me either. Oh, that one I like. That's the percentage of global primary energy consumption will be produced by nuclear power. Oh, 4? What's the answer of that one? 4 to 5%. That's the future. Nuclear power is the future of powering. If while we wait for fusion power.
Here's some interesting stats.
Oh, wow.
9 countries have them. Russia has the most. That's terrifying. North Korea has 30 to 40.
So yeah, in terms of numbers, I think BRICS just have the BRICS group of countries just about has it, but it's even enough.
Yeah, what kind of analysis or thinking do people do when they try to make sense of this claim? Usually, what's the best way to think about it?
I guess that's the first step, is to quantify it and say who's got them officially. And then you'd have to go into some sort of qualitative analysis where you'd have to say who's got beef with who, and what's the situation. Is their leader spouting off about Western culture
subject, yeah.
and in a crazy speech, not mentioning anyone in particular?
How to measure this kind of probability on the future? How do you know what would raise the probability, what will lower it, and this kind of thing? So
if Ukraine did join NATO, what line would you be at? I might be around slightly.
I think it's much more. It's closer to slightly, yeah.
okay, you would move your confidence because
yeah,
they would have joined.
I don't think I would go all the way though, but I can't split lines, so
You
I
can't.
think
You can move your name and then leave it in the middle, right?
Well, we do like to keep it on just the lines.
There's 100 lines and
yeah.
I think I think it is definitely if the question was, will NATO be at war before the end of 2023, then Ukraine joining is definitely going to move me towards neutral. But that doesn't entail nuclear per se. It may well be with other countries that also have nuclear weapons, but it's much more likely to be a Cold War.
Yeah. We can talk about what precipitated the first uses, but they haven't been used since, so the first uses may have been a deterrent. Yeah. Yeah. It's above my pay grade for sure. Don't listen to me.
I don't have enough information or knowledge on the subject to predict the future.
Yep. All right. Want to talk about something else?
Yep.
For you also watching and some more suggestions.
There's no colors, no waiting, nobody waiting.
And also feel free to call in. It's not just us. Yeah, we're just vamping.
Because we want to evaluate your claims. And so about the gender transitioning subject, I talked with someone on the show last time. He was saying that his claim was trans women shouldn't be called women or are not women. And what we did was defining words and their purpose. Words.
Oh yeah, that conversation. I wrote a note about that. I think it was something along the lines of It was a conversation that was more about absolute definitions of words.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down absolute definitions of words are more useful for productive conversation.
Instead of objective, you use absolute.
Instead of
objective definition. Instead
a number,
of,
that could be
use...
reworded. Yeah. Instead of multiple definitions of the same word. Although I would also claim that words that have the same spelling and sound the same but have multiple meanings result in better comedy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So English is a good language for comedy.
Yeah.
Is this fair? Word should only mean one thing when placed in a proposition. When used in a proposition? With used in a sentence?
In a sentence, yeah.
I guess so.
Don't put...
Yeah.
Oh! And
less
then
euphemism.
David just talked about jokes where they do have they should have the dual meaning for the joke to be understood, right?
Yeah.
Should be interpreted both way for it to become a joke.
Yeah. Not if you're doing puns.
Yeah. When you're doing puns or dad jokes are notorious on the subject, the dad jokes. And here is why. I remember this one. The guy was on the camera and say, and here is why. And then he filmed the why. The letter.
I guess I would say words should only mean one thing when discussing, I don't know how to word this, politics, but they should have multiple meanings when it comes to political satire. And it's that's where the lack of certainty in what somebody meant to convey leads to confusion and or hilarity. But I mean, word that however you like.
That a claim some people are making? The word woman should only mean adult human female in all contexts.
That's what he was claiming. Something along the line. Well,
that's much closer to what he was saying.
We don't want to use this word, woman, to talk about this person. And I say, the word we use is trans woman. It's not woman. We use a different word because there is history behind this person's life. But he was hurt on the subject. He was hurt by the use of the word woman instead of trans woman by the media.
Think we could definitely. I don't know whether this does simplify it, but that could simply be woman equals adult human female. I don't know if there's much else that needs to be. I don't know if that's too much, too refined.
Oh, you mean if you are making a new claim?
Yeah. If it just trying to hark back to that previous conversation.
This wouldn't be good enough. The word woman should only mean adult human female in all contexts.
I think that's probably fine. Yeah. I think that makes sense. I don't have any issue with that.
Want to discuss that one?
Yeah, could do.
Okay.
Go for any of them. Don't know if we wanted a poll.
We'll just do this one for now.
Yeah, sure.
If anyone else wants to join, feel free.
Yes, please do. Join us. You might have to also drag me back onto that screen again.
Oh.
Unless you change them. Oh, right. There we go. I'd have to think about this.
The word all. Make it.
Yeah. The all context. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of context.
So I guess, do they even use the word woman in biology? That's not, it's just a social word. They would say female. Do they even say
I
woman?
assume, yeah. They would only use female.
Oh, Stargazer is pointing out that I was misrepresenting him. He wasn't hurt. He was just equivocating. He was saying that the gender theory equivocate when they use the word. So he needs to
yeah. We had a chat after the stream. Yeah, nice. So initially, there's going to be context that I have not thought of, but there we go. Pick it up. Come on, Dave, you can do it. Oh, I can't pick it up. Oh, I don't know what's going on.
I think we have that original claimant here. I was claiming that the gender theory crowd equivocates when they use the word woman. I was not hurt. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jesus says, strongly agree. That's fun. I mean, you created man and woman.
Yeah, you are the real one.
Get it straight.
And I created them men and women or something. What does it say in the Bible in English? Hommes et femmes, je les créé in French. Does it say male or does it say man and woman?
I mean, in all contexts, that's really hard. What would be a context where it's like iffy?
I can't pick mine up for some reason, but I think I would go on agree for now. That can definitely change.
I mean, if a trans woman came on here right now on stream and said, I'm a woman, should we interpret that to mean I'm an adult human female?
So that's why I would be down to agree, not strongly agree. And then I'm certain there will be other sort of aspects of conversation where we would use the word woman and it wouldn't necessarily mean adult human female, but it would mean that we would have to succumb to various different stereotypes that would be considered old-fashioned and regressive. So I would say my epistemology would be in order to avoid those stereotypes, I would use it more within a sort of clinical, biological sense, context, rather than saying, women, I don't know, like pink or something.
Yeah, if anyone came on the stream and just said, I prefer presenting femininely, I'm like, okay, I'll take you at your word. Why don't people just say that rather than say I'm a woman?
Yeah, that's interesting. And even so, in that context, you really could go down into how would they present as? Because we say feminine, that means we present from a biological standpoint. So there's nothing to do with how they dress or how they cut their hair. All these things would be choices, and I guess biology would be defined as something that you do not choose. And so do we get that social aspect from something that we enforce through various, some claim patriarchy, some claim habit, sort of just the people around us say
just how culture evolved over time.
So there's an interesting aspect of the conversation. I don't know how relevant it would be as to in equal countries, so countries that have equality laws, the typically considered progressive countries, the UKs, the Swedens, the Denmarks, whatever, when left to their own devices, males go into certain jobs, females go into different jobs. And so all of the schools that I'm at, for example, from personal experience, 80-90% of all the staff are women, females, depending on how we're defining this. They are females. So typically there's only, actually at one school, there's only 2 men, and one of them's me, and we're both PE leads. So there must be something in that.
Sorry, I didn't see you there, Rosemary.
Oh, hello. Have we been joined? Lovely.
Your microphone is muted, Rosemary.
Yeah, you seem to be muted, Rosemary.
Yeah, I had it muted just in case. I was been cooking in the background, so
Nice.
it was getting a little noisy for a moment.
Lovely. What are you having?
Just prepping food, basically. Chickpeas.
Yum.
So,
yes. Is new claim is chickpeas food?
Yes, chickpeas are delicious food. They're the best legume ever, and I hate beans. I don't really hate
there an
beans. They're
eighth
just
line?
my least favorite. Yeah, they're just my least favorite food, but yet I love chickpeas. But anyway, I am an adult human female, but it's easier to say woman because it's 2 syllables.
Yeah, it's a shortcut to convey a concept.
Yeah. So when Dave was talking about the identity and versus biology, I was thinking about how, like, even before there was this whole debate about trans women versus women and like what's really a woman, we have culturally conditioned expectations of what women should do that have nothing to do with their biology. So it's hard to say that in all context, like, it's going to mean adult human female, because there's things that we culturally condition about like how women should be. Like some cultures, they have long hair, some cultures they have short hair, things like that. There's just expectations about behavior, and when you don't conform to that, and it hasn't, so it's hard to say that like it's going to be adult human female in all contexts, but I think generally we use it like that in most contexts, or at least we think we are.
Yeah. I watched the Tesla AI Day presentation last night, and they were making like a prototype for a robot. If in the future someone made a robot that was just could directly mimic perfectly the stereotypes socially of women, and the creator said, well, this robot is a woman, would that be a context where it would be accurate to say, yeah, that robot is a woman, it acts like one?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I as a child, I assigned genders to numbers, so I think sometimes in our brains we might assign a gender to an object.
Okay, I thought you put number 1 male, number 2 female. No, you say like genders and numbers are similar in the sense that okay, that's what you meant.
No, I did actually like my brain was such that I did actually assign them like they all had different characters for like.
Yeah. Who's number 1, 9. Rosemary? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes,
it was grandfather.
I want to be number 1. How do I get to number 1? Please.
But yeah, no, it's like, they're not meaning like when they say that they're not meaning adult human female, but they must be assigning some sort of cultural or just it's also just like how we talk about ships as being she. That you give it that personality.
Yeah, and Luc, you speak French. A bunch of nouns are labeled either lay or la, right?
A bunch of nouns are labeled what?
They're masculine and feminine nouns, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Who decided which noun was masculine or feminine? They're not biological things.
The dictionary. There is a committee that makes a decision.
Oh, there's a committee?
Yeah, like they prayed for that, and that's what they do all year. They decide this new word, and this is how we should write it. Is it male or female, or I don't know how to translate that. Masculine or feminine. That's how we say it in French.
What reasoning do they use to decide that? And has something changed from masculine to male to female over time?
I think I have yet to meet one person who does that for a living, right? I never met one guy who is working on writing those laws, right? But I have met people who've met people, so I have a proxy thing. So what I understood was they use statistics. New words open are usually used to reference male or female, so we use it as a female.
They just statistically analyze the usage, so they go with popular usage.
Popular, yeah, that's how words are defined in a way. In my understanding of words, they are defined by society. I don't think that words are objective; they are subjective, and society is the one who makes the rules. The dictionary is like a rule book for words, and they are made and can be changed. Like any rules, they can be changed if the majority of the people agree.
Yeah, if we as a society start using the word woman in ways that do not mean adult human female, it will change.
Yeah.
It might cause some confusion based on the context, but we'll figure it out. But should that change? Should we use woman differently?
So if you ask me, the answer is no, because right now, for me, a woman is an adult human female when you talk to me. So I learned English, right? and in English, when they say, this is what they mean when they say WOMEN, AN, sorry, or EN, yeah, you can write it both ways. Anyway, this is what it means, and that's how I learned it. So if someone were to talk to me in English and say woman in their phrase, I would have this idea in my head. And if they want to convey a different idea, they should use a different word than woman, or teach me the new meaning of the word, if they want to avoid confusion. That's the advantage of being French. Yeah, I'm sorry, my teacher taught me that it meant that. So what does it mean really today? And who is the new lawmaker? Where is the official paper that your new definition agree with, or agree with your new definition? And then I can back this my mistake. If I make a mistake myself, I can go back to, okay, where is it? Where is the law? Where is the law of this is what it means?
So you're on disagree, Luc. Why are you there? You're the Catholic, right?
Yes, I'm the Catholic, but I still disagree that it should only mean that, because I liked David's idea of jokes and where the word woman can be used as a joke without meaning adult human female. Well, even as a joke, well, it means human female, but also a male acting like a female. He was like a woman, and yeah. So yeah, the context changed the use of words, and I do agree that even in some contexts, if I were to be in a trans group, like there is a majority of people here, or someone who would be hurt by me not identifying this person as a woman, right? I would still do everything that is in my power to do something that doesn't hurt the person, right? I wouldn't purposefully change my keep the way of saying things, even though I know that person is hurt by my vocabulary, right? I would do what I can to not hurt the person. That's a specific context where I would use woman and not mean adult human female.
If I specified it, so it's like not related to jokes, not related to, you're in a play, you're just playing a woman at the time, not related to pretending, but any kind of serious, intentional usage of it where you mean, I don't know what you would mean besides adult human female, but just the cultural construct of woman.
I don't understand. Is that the question, or?
Yeah, I want to remove, you said not in the case of jokes. I want to remove that from the context list, but that would be fair for all contexts. But how can we phrase it? So
there's another context, which is where the person would be hurt if I don't use woman.
In context where it won't cause harm?
Yeah. So the use of woman won't cause harm, even if it's not the information or the knowledge that I have about what woman means. But in such a context where I am speaking with one person and that person wants to be called woman and would be hurt if I don't call that person a woman, I would still use woman to convey the idea.
Is causing harm is not causing harm desirable within the context of, is it possible to change one's strongly held belief without causing harm?
My belief, well, whose belief would be changed in this example? Okay, I'm having coffee with someone and I want to know more about the person I'm with, and the person says I want to be called a woman, and I am able to change my vocabulary in the sense that every time I cite this person, I will use woman instead of man, right? So and I know that if I were to use man instead of woman, I would be hurting that person. The person wouldn't feel good when I use man instead of woman, a man instead of woman in the conversation that we have at the coffee shop. So in this context, that's why I'm in disagree. It's all context. That's a new context that I just generated right now, where I will use woman even if it doesn't mean adult human female, right? I use woman to refer to the person I talk with. I change the meaning or the idea conveyed by the word woman when I talk about this person, or I use it in my phrase. Hey Tyler, welcome.
Hello Tyler.
Welcome. How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
Where are you on the scale?
So I would be with you two on agree.
Okay. And why are you there?
So I'm there for basically for the same reason I just posted this chat. I was saying that if all of a sudden the word woman meant these new ideas, we would have to find another word to replace it. And so I'm not confident the same people claiming trans women are women now would accept that this new word that we created that means adult human female, that they wouldn't try and say they're that word as well. So for the purposes of kind of like being on the same page and making progress and cooperating, I would think that it would have to mean the same thing in most circumstances, I guess. That's why I'm not at strongly agree. If that makes any sense.
Gotcha.
What's your argument down in the chat has brought up a very reasonable point, which is how are we defining female?
A human organism that had the capacity to produce eggs has it or will have it.
Generally has it, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say a female, just in general, in any animal kingdom context, as far as I think, I'm just taking my cues from a microbiologist I spoke to, it is having the potential to produce ovum, whatever the word is, egg, which would be defined as the largest gamete of that species. Although there are some animals where that is not the case, but they are an outlier.
Okay. Then
I don't know if that helps.
Then Quaid would be on disagree. Is that a insufficient definition of female? What did he say?
Yeah, that interested me because we basically just agreed on the definition, but then just came to a completely different conclusion. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean all females have the capacity to become pregnant. It just means they are producing eggs, or their body is like virtually, very close to that ability.
Or if their body was functioning as most do, they would produce eggs. They wouldn't like produce sperm.
Yeah.
Do we know of male in nature that are able to give birth?
I think so. Not from memory, but I think there are examples. Yeah. So it all depends on whether the egg gets passed to the male.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to do with who gives birth, but who produces which gamete. I believe that's the case.
The egg is fertilized by the female will give the egg to the male, and then the male will fertilize it and then give birth to the species, right? That's what
I
happens.
think that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Google.
Please, people on the internet, give me the name of this species.
Well, somebody put seahorses,
I'm really
which
curious.
is what I remember.
Do you remember?
Seahorses. Okay.
Seahorses do that? They carry
Male
the
animals that give birth. Seahorses and their close relatives, sea dragons, are the only species which the male gets pregnant and gives birth.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
In the human context, that's kind of irrelevant, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not our case. Yet.
Well, you know.
Technology and things in the future, maybe.
Maybe that's when this new word will make more sense.
I'm thinking of this metaverse where it would be possible for the male to have the baby in the metaverse. But it would be the second kind of reality where
So,
do you mind if I turn off my camera? I haven't shaved because I've been working at home for the last couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Sure.
Can I throw something out there as well? So could we define it in a very specific way, such as saying, is that particular organism capable of having Klinefelter's syndrome? Or words to that effect. That could be edited.
What's this syndrome?
If the answer is no, they would be female. Would that be? I mean, discuss. I'm not sure that's.
Yeah. I have a friend who has Turner's, which is like, she has like a deletion on one X instead of missing an X, because Klinefelter's is the male version, and then Turner's is the female version. But yeah, so like she doesn't have the ability to have children because her development wasn't complete, basically. But you wouldn't say she wasn't a woman, because she definitely expresses herself as a woman. And then she actually has an uncle who has Klinefelter's, but the same thing as a deletion on the X instead of the whole X.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's one specific person I know within these YouTube circles who has Klinefelter's, and it's fascinating then to go into a separate conversation within trans and going into trans sport, because I'm a PE teacher, so I sort of like that angle as well. And it is the case that Klinefelter's, going on off on a slight tangent here, but they would be allowed to take testosterone, and they're within their remit to sort of go back up to a typical, like, quote unquote 100% male level, because they don't have enough. So for Olympic competition, they're allowed to take testosterone. But if I did that, then I would be disqualified.
Yeah, my friend has to take estrogen because she doesn't make enough. Otherwise, she'd have broken bones like crazy. So
it's interesting. Don't know how that helps with the question. Sorry.
she would compete in a special category, like those Olympics, Paralympics kind of thing, where she will be competing with people with the same condition that she has.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because it's a rare condition, it's something from birth. You don't have control over it. You don't want her to be able to compete with people who have better genes, right? But then again,
that brings up.
I'm thinking of athletes that are genetically more prone to some kind of movement or than other athletes. Should we create a different category for those athletes? Like, even two males that don't have the same genes, and because they don't have this kind of gene, should we create a new category because we found this kind of gene that are making them less competitive, or harder for them to have the same result?
What if they have mosaicism, or they're an actual like the chimera, where you had the fusion of, like, let's say you had a fertilized XX child and a fertilized XY, but then they fuse early. So they end up with that mix. Like, where do they go? They are the exception, but like we want to create these absolute categories, which is why I think where I fall on this, is because it should only, in all, it's so absolute, because we can think of exceptions, and a lot of times it's going to come down to how the person has lived their life, or where they find themselves fitting into, and then we get into the aspects of, like, well, what if somebody was born with that, they were just not in one of those exceptions, but they still identify the other way. And I think that's where people get really caught up in. And that's what they don't want to allow to change, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just a way to align concepts from one brain to another brain. We use these things called words to do it. If someone uses the word woman in a way that's not this, adult human female, should it be on the burden on them to make it clear that they don't mean that? Whenever
I think in the context where if they know the other person doesn't understand what they are defining it as, then they should. Because otherwise, yeah, you're going to have a problem of communication. But then when it comes down to, like, will the other person accept that definition? Like, they don't have to agree on the definition, but can they accept it for the purposes of that conversation? I think that's more important than agreeing on the definition, but accepting it for that conversation, which I think kind of goes back to what Luc was saying. Like, you don't want to cause harm. Like, no one should be forced to use a term. Like, we shouldn't be doing like the totalitarian sense, but like in the sense of, but thinking, just saying, well, they want me to do that. That's not them being totalitarian. Then that's just asking politely. It just depends, again, the context. So all context is too broad.
So if it's an outlier, and I could see the outliers where, say I'm born male, but for whatever reason I don't feel that way. I don't understand why it wouldn't suffice to just create a new word, like trans female or whatever, right? Like, why the insistence on occupying a word that we already have established?
And I think a lot of people use trans woman for that, right? So
I mean, I
think Tyler is saying something. Why do some people do not want to use the trans one? They want to use the woman without the trans part. They want to write it on the paper that they were a woman and not trans woman. And if you write trans woman, they would say, "Oh, there's a mistake there. You said you wrote trans woman. You should write woman," and they will be at war or yelling, not yelling, but like conflicting with.
And I also think I also think just because we already have these categories, so if you grew up using those categories, that's going to cause you to say, I don't identify as a man, I identify as a woman. Like, you don't necessarily feel the need to have another category. Like, a person may not, just because they've already been brought up with that language, because the language we use is how we express our understanding of the world. So if that other word doesn't exist, or you don't feel the need for that word because you've already been using that language, that may be why you can say like that you don't necessarily need a third term.
So there's an interesting idea that's sort of 80% being suggested by Abe Kane. I have trans friends and acceptance exists in the word strangers use. It's weird to me, but I accept it. So the question I would pose is, should we base our, I don't know how to word this, well-being on the opinions and expressions of other people?
Ideally, no.
Yeah, I would say no.
I would. That's probably why I'm on towards agree. I think it's more useful, as we were saying at the beginning, to have an sort of objective definition of words that are preferably based on something that is testable and verifiable by everyone, aka the natural world that can be sort of deduced mathematically into atoms or quarks, or however far down you want to go. So you could then start to define things like female within like a physical context. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and Coitus has an interesting point, if our tech gets good enough that we can replicate cis female genitalia perfectly, eggs included, should the person drop the trans label? And I think that would be fine. Yeah, they could.
Nope. I'm thinking of a handicapped, somebody without a leg that has a perfect leg, working leg. Let's say biology allows him to have a correct working leg in the future. Does he lose his handicap position? He has this kind of scar in his body on what happened in the past. There is history that that needs to be recognized, I think, not deleted.
So in terms of that question, I think what it's missing, or maybe the blind spot, is how much of what it means to be a woman involves like the process of growing up with those organs or with that appearance, with, the things that men don't have. How much does that, it's like nature versus nurture. So even if like down the road, scientifically, we can have eggs or whatever and give birth, like, does our brain work the same way as a biological woman?
Well, I don't even know what the biological woman's brain works like, and I'm a woman.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. But I'm saying
like I grew up that way. I'm like, I don't like a lot of it. I don't. Other females, I don't get them. Like, does that make me not a female? No.
No, so that's why I opposed the whole thing in the first place. But I probably misspoke. What I'm saying though is like how much of being a woman involves growing up with the anatomy of a woman versus if I 20 years later had some modernistic surgery that gave me all the abilities biologically that women have. I don't think they'd be the same thing. It's like somebody it's like someone who grows up with the right tutelage on how to manage their money and becomes rich versus somebody who wins the lottery. They could both have the same amount of money, but they wouldn't be the same type of individual.
They don't have the same knowledge, acquired in their life.
There's like an experience, right? I mean, that's what the feminist movement has, there is a shared experience amongst females that men do not have.
Yeah, there's also just individual experience. So it's, like we all have individual experiences that are different.
True. Which is why I don't like the stereotypes.
But,
We have another caller, Zeleni. Hello, Zeleni.
Hello.
Oh.
Do you have a camera?
I do, but not really a representative room or a face.
No worries. Where would you be on the scale?
I would be on probably strongly disagree.
Cool. Why would you be there?
Well, I think that, the user with the interesting name, Jesus Christ, in the chat, asked, is the whole thing based on, reality or consideration of ethics? Like Luc had a point about not harming people's feelings. My view is that it's based on reality, that literally trans women are women objectively, that's true. And if you don't call them that, you're simply factually wrong.
True in reality?
Yes.
Here's the question. Well, what is a woman? What do you mean?
Sure. So I would say that the female is a biological term, so that it's concerned with sex, which is defined via chromosomes, gonads, inner and outer genitalia, and the balance of sex hormones, and also additionally secondary sex characteristics. But it's a cumulative definition even there in biology, and it's tricky. We don't yet have strict lines between intersex people and maybe people who we say are male or female, but actually don't fit all the sex characteristics fully. And like gender is a social thing, which is defined basically on stuff like clothing, hairstyle, makeup, jewelry, body language, manner of speaking, voice, how does the voice sound, and can overlap with sex with regards to like secondary sex characteristics, like body shape, breasts, chest, stuff like that, structure of the face. But it's mostly the gender stuff that I mentioned. So like if you have a person who doesn't have any medical transitionary elements, like in before modern times, like they didn't have any kind of hormone therapy or whatever, and they're fully male, if by gender they are a woman, I think they should be called a woman. Like,
So would a tomboy who doesn't want to be referred to as a woman be a woman or a man under that circumstance? You get what I'm saying?
would a tomboy is like I don't know the word, like a butch, like something like that.
No, it's like,
it's more like a girl who likes to do boy things.
yeah, so
Play
she
outside.
still considers herself a girl or a woman, etc. Under your explanation, wouldn't she not have a choice in the matter?
Well, she would have a choice, like to express her preferences by performing them. Like if she does the gender performance of a girl, she's a girl. Like,
what about effeminate gay men? Stereotypically, women are attracted to males. Effeminate gay men are attracted to males. Stereotypically, women are effeminate in their mannerisms.
yeah, when you look at like there's the famous like gender is a spectrum, but if you look at it like bipolar line, where you have masculinity on one side and femininity on the other, you could say that like on one end you have masculine men, and then you, as you move from that end to the other, you have feminine men, and then you have androgynous people, then you have masculine women, and at the other end you reach feminine women. So sounds understandable to me. Like we all know what I said right now. We all understand those terms. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is, just a quick question, is an androgynous individual somewhat halfway between the two, or are they separate in a non-binary way?
No, I would say the androgynous person is in between, but like you would need to add another axis and make like a triangle. So you have like the spectrum between masculinity and femininity as a line, and then you make a triangle downwards or upwards, whatever, where you have like agender people or non-gender people. Like, so you would have a category of non-binary people, which would include agender people, androgynous people, gender fluid people also. Like, and we could maybe have an like discussion: should it include like effeminate men and masculine women, or like butch women, or what you want to call it?
Should
Here
we
you're
have
just
a
talking
proper
about
SC
culture.
session on the subject with Zeleni?
So what we're talking about here is just like how their cultural, like how we would categorize them culturally, not anything to do with their biological basis, is what I'm getting, right?
Is there a difference between the cultural categorization and like the Archie Bunker type of person, how they categorize things?
I'm not sure. trying to Venn diagram it out in my head. The two master categories are males and females. And then there's like a little bit of overlap sometimes with intersex people. We can ignore them for now. It's almost irrelevant to trans. You're saying men and women should be completely disconnected from the sex of male and female. It's entirely about the social stereotypes and stuff.
Me, Zeleni?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say they are separate concepts, although like it seems to me that usually there is some overlap with regards to secondary sex characteristics, as I mentioned. I wouldn't know how precisely to define it. But, you know, the entire concept of cultural elements of gender is not precisely definable because they vary through time in a single culture and they vary across cultures.
Right.
Although even though they vary, we can point, like, we know what skirt is feminine and what isn't. Like, if it's a robe, it's not feminine. Like, it's a judge's robe. We don't consider it feminine. But if it's a dress with flowers, we consider it feminine. So, like,
I think it's definitely true that different cultures in history or that exist now have more or less acceptance of what is considered like feminine or masculine or like something in between. But I do think it's something about our culture in Europe that we came from that needs to have it more binary.
I'm not sure about that
sense.
one. There's whole entire languages that are gender specific.
Non-what, like which languages?
Like Spanish, Arabic. There's more. I'm not a linguist.
Yeah. But it's two genders, right? It's like very like binary.
Yeah, it's like you would use a different word for a verb or whatever if you're referring to a male or a female.
Yeah.
Like Latina and Latino.
Though also in those languages, like in my mother tongue too, we have gendered nouns. Like a chair is feminine.
Right, but I only pointed it out to say that it's not unique to. I know that's like one of the things out there, but it isn't. It's not something that we imposed. It's actually the norm for the most part.
Well, yeah, in our culture, yeah, like that's what I'm saying is like
in all cultures.
There's cultures where you would have a lot of it's been lost, but there was like the two spirits in the Native Americans, like the idea that there's something that's not just one or the other.
I think the two spirit thing's new, but I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just saying those would be the outliers. We're not the outlier. Those
Hindus have a continuous like recognition of Hydras, the trans women who worship Krishna.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, for example, like Latin, which is also gender language. They had recognition of like various priestesses, which were actually male biologically. Although, like, you could see in the documents from Rome that like some people did refer to them as priestesses, and some people refer to them as priests, and some people would say they are women, but some other people would call them half men or something like a third thing.
Yeah.
How about this? Our cultural ideas on it, would you say they're in the majority, or is that an outlier? Did we like somehow start something new? Isn't it fair to say that we're pretty much in alignment with most cultures in that reference?
Not really, because like a lot of ancient cultures had the concept which was used to deal with this issue partially. That's the concept of a eunuch. Most ancient cultures and medieval cultures had it. So depending on the culture, they would like sometimes put gay men there too, like totally cisgender. Like they would usually put like trans women there, in addition to literal eunuchs, like who were castrated. You know.
Cool. Well, I want to keep it on SC. This is the SE Collins show,
Oh, my
and we
bad.
are experimenting with some, spectrum SE. I wonder if the best way to do it would be to, if we want to continue with this, have one, either me, David, or Luc, facilitate a conversation between you guys, or
No, my apologies.
no worries. I think we've talked a lot about this already. Want to do another claim, and we'll try to just have SE people facilitate you guys. What?
So talking to Rosemary, Tyler, or
Yeah, Rosemary, Tyler, and Zeleni.
what do you guys want to do? That's the question Reid was talking.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to do another claim. I know I always
it-
pounce on this one.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Yeah, we did this last one too for a while. So,
All right, I'll give you guys the preference for picking the next claim. We have some of these, or anything you guys want to talk about. What are the options that we didn't do already? It's okay to shame. How about that? That's one that was interesting.
That sounds interesting.
I like that one. So let me do spectrum. I'll just rename this one. And I'll put me and David and Luc up here for now.
Yeah, just to say thanks for the convo. It's like after midnight here in my country, so
No worries.
cheers.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you.
Thanks. Cheers.
Who's that? Zeleni?
Take care.
Okay. How about I'll facilitate and David and Luc can be on this spectrum.
Okay.
All right. It's okay to shame. Tyler and Rosemary, you're good for this too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. All right, I'll start with David. I think it's clear what we mean by shame.
Yeah, I guess it's referring to things like fat shaming, or it could just be, I guess, is there a degree to which it becomes bullying? There's a line which needs to be defined. So is it me going up to somebody and being sort of very malicious in my intent? It's very obvious what I'm sort of doing. Or is it considered shaming someone just to keep pointing out and say you are sort of empirically of a particular weight that is statistically more likely to lead to a shorter lifespan, cancers, disease, diabetes, whatever. And as such, I guess the line as to when it gets crossed, I guess would be defined by malice or the intention of the individual. So is shame meant to be defined as intentional harm? That is, I mean, and do we define that as something that is interpreted, or do we interpret? Do we define it as something that is intended? Does that make sense?
Yeah, intentional harmful criticism.
So if it's defined by the interpretation of the person, then I'm veering more towards slightly agree. Because I guess there's a degree to which shame is there's a public shaming. So can you shame in private? I guess we just use a different word for it. So is it okay to publicly shame? I guess there's also a lot of people that would probably benefit from. I'm thinking more sort of obtuse politicians, or people that are just cannot see it at all until a lot of people come to them and say, "Look, this is a problem." Such as say take the shaming of UK Prime Minister Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, the new Chancellor, for their policies that have bombed the pound, and everybody, Bank of England have had to intervene. Everyone is now saying, you're doing the wrong thing. Like, is it okay to shame them? It's probably much more acceptable than somebody who is just sort of standing there minding their own business and you shout out of your car window, "Oi, fatty," or something. So I'd go slightly agree, but I'm willing to move.
All right, you're slightly agree, David. What about you, Luke?
So I had to type shame on Google to see the definition.
Yeah.
So thank you, David, for the time.
No, sorry, I ranted a bit.
No, well, really. So painful feeling of humiliation or distress. A painful feeling, so it's a feeling, shame, it's a feeling of humiliation or distress. So because of that, totally disagree.
We'll go with that definition. It's good. Where are you?
Strongly disagree.
Oh,
Don't do it.
What about you, Rosemary?
I'm leaning towards strongly disagree, but I want to go with disagree because I do agree with a couple of the contexts that David mentioned, where you'd want to have people to experience shame, like politicians and stuff. But for the most part, I don't think it's okay.
All right. What about you, Tyler?
I could be on either slightly. I'll go with slightly agree. It's just going to depend on the context.
Okay. I'll start with the agree side. David and Tyler, what's the best reason for being on that slightly agree? Or just being on that side?
You want to go first, David?
Oh, I've said quite a lot. No, please.
Okay, so I would say there's it serves a good purpose, and for example, like people that have I don't want to get controversial. Say people who have attraction to kids, or things that are bad for society, where shame might prevent them from acting on that. I don't see that as a bad thing. Or if somebody, has, like he was bringing up with the health issues, I think shame can serve a purpose to a certain extent.
And purpose. All right. Anything else?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Okay.
I want to throw out there the idea that shame, particularly when it comes to children, isn't necessarily the most effective long-term strategy for changing behavior. If we want to try and change somebody's behavior, we might say, instead of saying something like, look at what this person did, it's so bad, we might say something like, here's our sort of the level that we've set for everybody. You're almost there. All you have to do is, and you refocus to what they should be doing rather than what they shouldn't. And I guess shaming is looking at what the negative impacts, especially looking at that definition Luc was looking at, associated with negative self-evaluation, motivation to quit, feelings of pain, exposure, distrust, powerlessness, and worthlessness. So I guess that's useful for people who feel they're too powerful, too worthy.
Good point.
That sort of thing. In children, I'd definitely be on the disagree. But
Yeah.
for adults, it might be different.
Yeah, I said people who are like attracted to. I was using that as an example of like a bad.
I would
thing.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example of where I would be all right with shame.
Yeah, we might go to specific examples next, but for now, I want Luc and Rosemary's reasons.
I don't know. Do you want to go first, Luc, or do you want me to go first? All right. So I think that the experience of shame can definitely be a good thing, and it's good for us psychologically to listen to that. But for when it comes to making another person feel shame, I feel like that there's a risk, like the bullying risk, and people can use this as an excuse for bullying to say, oh, it's okay for me to shame. So the risk is bullying, and then the other thing is the risk of being manipulative, because it's a very manipulative tactic to get a result, and it all comes down to the context and the reason. And that's why I pretty much lean strongly disagree, but I want to leave that opening for there might be a context where it's okay.
So the number of time where shame had a good outcome, so that would be the way to measure if it's okay to shame. So if the most of the time when you use shame, the outcome is bad, pain, suffering, those kind of things, it is not okay to do it. If most of the time, or if it's 50-50, so it might be okay. If it's 70-30, so it's not okay. And if it's 90-10, it's really not okay to shame. And right now, it's 99-1, right? In my understanding, there is only 1% of time where shame could be correct, but 99% of the time, it is pain and suffering that is the result. There is no good thing coming out of shame. The opposite of shame, I had to look it up. Thank you very much. I'm expanding the English dictionary or my English vocabulary. It's respect. And you understand how can respect also be something detrimental to someone, but it's 99-1. Most of the time, when you respect someone, you will have a good outcome.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's like the feeling of shame, and then shame as a verb versus noun. It's okay to cause someone a painful feeling of humiliation or distress. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So, Luc, you're saying it doesn't really work 99% of the time. Shaming is usually something where you're using it as a means to make someone stop doing something or making them start doing something.
I don't know why people use shame. It's like, it's so bad for me. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, most of the time, like you're going to be causing some sort of psychological harm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's think of some specific examples of things people shame each other about, and if they're okay or not. There's the fat shaming comes to mind.
Can I to break it down into two categories? So things that we choose and things that we do not. So I would define fat shaming as something that most of the time is to do with our own choices. Some things are not available to everybody. You may not have a gym local to you. You may not have, country roads with good pavements. I know there's a lot of roads around where I live where there's just single track road for 2 sets of traffic going in the same opposite directions, let alone pedestrians. So it's not always practical to just go on a free run or something like that. It, to me, shame is when it's shaming for something that you do not have control over. I would be closer to Luc and Rosemary. But if it's something that they chose, then that's healthy or healthier discussion.
Is being fat an example of something you like?
I think there's enough control that people have over that. I mean, people can disagree. I think whether it's to do with the exercise or the food, it does depend on what is available, and you have to work within what is within your reach. But I would be veering towards choice if for fat. Happy to be proved wrong.
But I have to change my position too. I would be on disagree now.
So
Interesting.
yeah, I
what was
don't
that
know
specifically for, out of interest?
Yeah, so part of it is just that, like, when I was hearing the question, I was thinking of the feeling of shame that someone might experience, like that prevents them from doing something. But given the actual definition we used, causing someone severe emotional pain, I would lean for a lot of the same reasons that, what's the gentleman's name? Sorry, I have bad glasses on the phone.
Luc. Are you thinking of Luc?
Yeah, where
Or
he said
David?
most of the time it's something that's not a good thing to cause someone severe emotional pain. So that's why I'm on disagree and not strongly disagree, because I agree with David that there are circumstances, like with politicians or people who abuse power, where it might be a good thing. And then I also agree with what he said about choice versus, but I think causing someone severe emotional pain, I'm not sure that would necessarily be the best approach.
Yeah, we're not saying shame is the best approach for helping people.
Oh, you're saying it's okay, right?
Yeah, really okay to do.
Yeah. So I guess I would go to slightly disagree based on what you just said.
Okay. All right. So if the claim is more specifically, it's okay to shame people for something someone chose to do, something that they chose to do, where would you be, David?
Somewhere either slightly agree or agree. If somebody doesn't have control over that thing, then I'm much more likely to be strongly disagree. Like
they chose they have control.
Yeah, if they have control over something, now we're in territory of ignorance. And if somebody's ignorant, then that's much more forgivable.
Yeah,
I think
Better Thursday.
it's slightly agrees, probably the right decision. Yeah, I'd go there.
All
That's
right.
the way I interpreted the original question as well.
Great. What about you, Luc, now that this is more specific?
Yeah, still strongly disagree for the same reason. Every time I have this kind of example, the flat earther is a good one I just thought of, where they choose to believe the earth is flat, and if you try to shame them, the result wouldn't be a good thing. Therefore, it's not okay to do that.
It's not okay to do something if the result is not likely going to happen?
Good. If the result is not good, it's not okay to do it.
What if the result is someone becoming a better person?
Yeah, if shaming had worked, right? So it would be okay to do that, but that's not the case. When you shame people, they don't evolve, or they are not better after shaming.
Do they get worse?
Yes, because they're hurt.
Okay. What about you, Rosemary?
I'm going to go back to disagree again. I think I disagree with David that about fat being a choice. And I think a lot of this, it's a very complex thing. So if you have an eating disorder, it's like a lot of people have eating disorders. And so an eating disorder can make you anorexic and bulimic and you'll be really skinny, but it can also make you really fat. There's a lot of biological things that go into weight. Definitely when I say lifestyle, I don't mean choices, but I think living in an era of highly processed foods also has contributed to the weight issues that we have as a society. But at no point is shaming going to help a fat person be healthier, because if they already have an eating disorder, they've already had some sort of pain. A lot of times, if you grew up in a household where you had trauma, food addiction is just like any other addiction. You're going to find some place to go where you get validation. And if you're getting it from food and then somebody's shaming you for being fat, you're just going to keep on going to that thing that gives you validation. So you're not going to lose weight if you need to eat less. So this is really putting me, I think, where Luc was talking about is like, it's not going to have the desired result.
Yeah, that's maybe because of this in control of part of, I added that as well to the claim. If you don't have a disorder and you're more of in control of it.
Yeah. And again, that's why I'm sitting on disagree, is because, at some point there's going to be an exception that I would agree with.
What would be a good way to test this claim? If some people shamed other people, could we see some results to shift our confidence about it?
Yeah.
What would be a good example?
What about smoking laws? Like smoking. I'm addicted to cigarettes and I hate it, but I can see that certain people who aren't quite as addicted as I am have changed their habits because of the social stigma, which I think is close to shame.
Tyler, have you seen the packaging that's available in multiple countries, including the UK, on smoking? Because I guess that's a degree of shaming. So on all smoking packaging, they have like pictures of like rotting lungs or something like that, which says like 80% chance you'll get cancer, or whatever. But
I would say that's a good way. That's like a positive example of shame that's good for most people.
I don't even know if I would call it shame. It's more like understanding the consequences. So if you're educating people about the consequences of being overweight, like I think Quaid said something about being fit. Like if you say, when I went to Germany for a study abroad and came back, and like I was so used to seeing people walking everywhere, and like I come back and I go to Walmart and I see people in those carts that they are not fit. But yet when I'm in Germany and I see people of all weights walking around with no problem, like that kind of things, like if you see a consequence, that can encourage you to change your behavior. But I don't think that's quite the same as shaming.
As someone who smokes and for whatever reason I can't stop, me seeing things like that, it does cause me severe emotional pain. So I would say it is shaming. I'm laughing, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
And I think the weight issue is very similar because it does have a lot of negative outcomes. And I think the fact that people, if they're instructed like, hey, this can cause that and that and that, the fact that they call it shame is because they have severe emotional pain because they're having an issue with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's close enough. I think it's in that territory. It's like a relative of shame, at least.
Yeah, and you don't have to like reprimand someone verbally. You could just give them a look. Like if you're in a parking lot and someone takes some groceries to their car but doesn't return their cart to the little cart parking area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you just give them a look, that could be a form of shaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I may or may not have that feeling sometimes when people don't do the things that we socially expect them to do.
Yeah, those are good targets of shame.
Yeah, it's minor. It's not going to cause.
Yeah, severe emotional pain might be a little like a strict. I keep bouncing back and forth between slightly agree and slightly disagree. I can't. It's good. Like it depends on the context.
Right. Cool.
I wouldn't know how to measure the particular thought I'm having. I realized while you were talking that the concept that has been bandied about for a while about body positivity is something typically I would encourage, but not to the extent where people then avoid dealing with various different issues like obesity or whatever it may be, and then that then causes harm. So I guess this might just be a stream of thoughts that you're going to have to interrupt me on. But does pain drive people more than pleasure?
Oh.
I guess is the overarching thought I'm having.
Your painful experiences you will remember better than your pleasant ones. So like if you have childhood trauma of any sort, like you're more likely to remember those negative experiences than the positive ones. And then it's not necessarily going to lead to healthier behaviors as you grow up. Sometimes it's going to lead you into the same traumatic situations again. So
yes,
true.
So not all negative experiences have a positive outcome too. I don't know if that was where you were thinking.
Yeah, well, in terms of identifying various forms of going into the like abuse side of things. So this is all how we define shame. If it does get into that serious sort of bullying, abuse side of it, then I'm way more on the disagree side. But I don't define shame as something that is as strongly defined as I think others are defining it. I think even the stern look that Reid describes could be considered shame. So this is why I'm sort of fearing as Tyler is more in the middle than I don't think I could have a strong position on this one because it does cover both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the risk of this look. You give the look to this person who didn't return the cards, and there is a risk involved in giving the look. It could cause pain, humiliation, distress, or not, right? That's shame. Do you think that's shame?
I think that is a form of shaming.
Yeah.
That's a good.
on national television.
Yeah, it's a good example.
Did-
Entertainment.
Like people
shaming.
who litter, like if they posted a picture, or people who steal and they post the picture, right? Like that's an element of like societal shame to make people kind of like adhere to norms. No.
So
Yeah.
here's
It-
an interesting point. Sorry to interrupt, Rosemary. Is it
No.
permissible to say because we just had a good laugh at her own expense, right? Is she the only victim of that idiot sandwich thing? And thousands of people find it hilarious. So is the pain of one person worthy of the pleasure of thousands that are laughing at it?
Oh.
Yes, if she
I think that
was
consented
complicated.
to being on a reality show and getting paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was actually a skit clip, not actually a real. Like that was like a skit. So it's okay to laugh at that one because it was played
Yeah,
out.
it was in the script. Yeah, it was scripted. Yeah, he didn't do that for real, right?
Yeah, he
Okay,
wasn't
just to make sure that it never happened like for real on his show, because I don't think it would be so much popular today if it really happened right in one of his shows. Right?
Although it is playing on what he really does in his shows, so but we all get pleasure. We love watching it.
That's the thing. When those people go to this kind of show, they are expecting that. So shame is not involved. They shouldn't be feeling this distress of being humiliated, because they are going there with the expectation of having
Like a
these kind of
roast.
things happen to them. So yeah, we have entertainment people that are entertained by those kind of things. There is a good outcome that somebody could claim that there's a good outcome out of it. But yeah, though I don't think that is shaming per se that happens in this kind of show. I'm thinking of how do you call that? Roasting.
Yeah.
You know, like when you have this star on the chair and then the star peers are roasting him. You know, like that's purposefully shame. No hidden messages. You are just bashing on the person that is sitting there.
So I guess there's an aspect of shame in which it has not been consented to.
Right.
It has been enforced on someone.
And I'm thinking of what was the other word? Respect. So if I were to choose a show between shaming or respecting the person, I think I'm going to enjoy the respect one more. So I'm thinking of the Olympics, where you show respect to the winner, the winner of the gold. So yeah, it's that's something. That's one of the main reasons why I still hold this. Nah, it's not okay to shame.
Yeah.
It's kind of like use of force. If the amount of force necessary, is in balance with the threat, I think shame's like that. Like he said, if you're like just humiliating somebody, I'm going to be like strongly disagree. But if you give them that look when they're doing something that you can't respect, it's not good, then I'm for it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything else to talk about for this claim?
We're going to the end of the show anyway, so oh no, it's already okay. It's later than I thought.
Yeah, we have been going for about 2 hours. This has been good, been fun.
Nice.
Thanks everyone for coming. I'll switch to this view. Yeah, any last
Should
words?
we wave at the camera?
Feel free
to end the stream.
Feel free to plug your channel. I don't have the AI installed for the Waveout.
You don't have the AI? Well, you have a right hand and you have a left hand. You can wave with the left and click on the right. Shh! Don't say it to people. They don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've got our links in the description if you want to follow us. And we'll see you. I think tomorrow we're doing a review of Pine Creek's, one of his conversation tomorrow. You're going to be there, Rosemary, right?
Yes,
I'll be there. And that should be fun. So stay tuned for that. Cool. Anything else?
Thank you for letting me jump in.
Sure thing.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye.